My name is Robin Heinecke, and I'm the pastor of the Arch Street United Methodist Church, right on the southeast corner of Broad and Arch. But I'm also a member of Center City Organized for Responsible Development, which is a registered community organization in whose catchment area the arena would be built. I'm moderating a panel of speakers today that represent not just Center City or Chinatown, but represent communities across the city, because we believe that this development is setting a very dangerous precedent from City Hall that all neighborhoods should be wary of. We believe that the process to develop the CBA, the Community Benefits Agreement, was done without real input from the people who will be most impacted by this development. We believe that true community engagement involves those who live, work, and provide and experience cultural enrichment from the neighborhood that is proposed for development. And so today, on behalf of the organization I represent, we want to say very clearly that this project is ill-conceived. It lacks real investigation about its impact, not only on Chinatown, Washington Square West, and Center City, but its impact on the city overall in terms of who gets to decide how development works in this city. And so I'm going to invite a number of speakers to address this issue and other issues this afternoon in the wake of what might be a decision by City Council as soon as tomorrow. I want to make it clear that on behalf of the organization Center City Organized for Responsible Development, that we are absolutely against this project. We are absolutely flabbergasted that the process has been so railroaded through. And we call on City Council to vote no against this project. It's actually embarrassing to think that it's gotten this far. And so I'm going to call to the mic now Reverend Gregory Holson, who's speaking on behalf of Black Philly for Chinatown.
Thank you, Robin. Again, my name is Reverend Gregory Holston. I'm speaking for Black Philly for Chinatown. About 200 community leaders, activists, clergy people, black leaders across the city of Philadelphia who have come out against this project for all the reasons Robin just indicated: ill-conceived, ill-planned, are really a danger to our community and are setting a precedent for our community about how development is made. And probably even more so than that, simply when a community, an impacted community in all of its organizations that are impacted, collectively come together and tell you, no, we don't want this development. You have not sold us on this development. This development is not good for us. That we have to listen to what they say and follow what the impacted community says. I've been spending 25, 30 years of work across the city of Philadelphia. I was on the Avenue of the Arts when they took by eminent domain about 100 homeowners, mostly black, who said no to the Avenue of the Arts, that it would not do what it said it will do. They had all their homes taken from them and the little bit of money that was given back to them in return. I stood with refinery people in South Philadelphia where I grew up and was at, and saw the toxins coming out of that plant, and they told us it was just steam. And I saw people that I knew in that neighborhood die of cancers that were strange. And my own daughter have asthma for 12 years until we finally left that part of Philadelphia to find out later that it was caused by these toxins. We came together to say no to that refinery, and the people said no And the only reason it closed is because it blew up. They had every intention because of jobs, $100,000 jobs, that they were going to somehow keep that refinery going. All across this city, black communities, brown communities, neighborhoods have stood up against the kind of development that happens. And sometimes they win and sometimes they lose. Sometimes they get a temple to say no to a stadium 50 yards from their house. Sometimes they lose, they get a septic steam plant. Sometimes they lose, they get a Philadelphia gas plant in Southwest Philadelphia. Sometimes they win, sometimes they lose, but the principle has always been the same. The impacted community is the one that has to be listened to. And in this situation, in this Chinatown situation, the impacted community has not been listened to. They have said no. The Sixers tried to persuade them, had meetings with them, tried to talk to them. They said no, and that should have been it. When they said no, council should have said no. When they're saying no now, council still should say no, because they respect the people. When we say it's billionaires versus the people, that's what we're talking about. Regular everyday people coming in and saying no to the billionaires who own the Sixers. So any talk about community benefit agreement is really ridiculous in a sense, because it was negotiated not by the community but by the politicians. And so 50 million, of course, is ridiculous for the type of dislocation that happened. The own impact study from the Sixers said half of all the businesses in Chinatown will be negatively impacted. Half. That's a destruction of a community. So 50 million is a ridiculous number. We're hearing now that they're talking about negotiating $300 million lease. That's at bare minimum, and actually probably more. How much does it take to take half your businesses and relocate them somewhere else? How much does that cost? Let alone that you live there and your family and your neighbors and your grandparents have lived there for 150 years and have rooted themselves as a part of Philadelphia, that this is their community. What of all the emotions and all the pain that goes from leaving those areas because you've been dislocated? Who's going to pay for all of the misery that comes from losing something so dear to yourselves? We're saying now that if the community has to be involved, the RCO process has to be recognized, the community has to be engaged, and any number of any community benefit agreement has to be at least $300 million. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reverend Holson. Our next speaker is from the Philadelphia Chinatown Development Corporation, Romana Lee Akiyama.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. It's really an honor to stand here with folks who we know are supportive of what it means to build a just Philadelphia. So thank you all. Do you need me to repeat that? Okay. All right. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Romana Lee Akiyama, and I'm a board member of the Philadelphia Chinatown Development Corporation. It is our responsibility as the RCO for the Chinatown community to preserve our community. For the multi-generational families who have called Chinatown home, the immigrant workers of diverse backgrounds who find their livelihoods working in our neighborhood businesses, and the cultural gem that Chinatown serves for the people of our region. Yesterday, PCDC released a mitigation list to City Council members that outlined what we believe Chinatown needs in order to face our current existential threat, the 76ers arena. To be clear, we do not support this arena, and no amount of money will offset the destruction of neighborhoods and local businesses, the careless bankrupting of SEPTA, and ruining a business and historic corridor with construction and clogged streets for decades. Data shows that neighborhoods and arenas do not mix. We're grateful to the coalition of council leaders who have stepped up to stand with the people and acknowledge that the real needs of Philadelphians are not wholly and fully being met by this woefully inadequate and inappropriate $50 million of an agreement. We're appreciative of City Council members opening up this conversation to reach a minimum of $300 million and substantively engaging stakeholders in and beyond Chinatown to make sure that the people of Philadelphia are part of the agreement and not an afterthought. Previous city and developer engagements have failed to deliver sincere and meaningful outcomes, which is what we are now trying to achieve through this process. For the record, there was never a $163 million CBA put forth by PCDC. PCDC's request only reflected a piece of the overall larger mitigation efforts that are necessary to ensure that Chinatown can survive, maybe, and that all Philadelphians are protected from harms that the arena would inflict and have a voice in shaping real solutions. We urge all of council to join with those who recognize that there is room to break this artificial ceiling of $50 million and push for what we as a city deserve and are worth and need, a minimum of $300 million citywide for all neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Katie Lowe with No Arena, Washington Square West.
Hello. My name's Katie, and I'm here today on behalf of an organization called No Arena, Washington Square West. We applaud and support the extraordinary efforts of PCDC to protect its community in Chinatown by asking for more than the bare minimum from City Council-supported developers who have been handed a carte blanche by our mayor to realize their billionaire dreams regardless of the persistent and loud outcry from Philadelphians all across the city. Every one of us that opposes the arena in Center City knows that there is no amount of money that can truly save our neighborhoods from the negative impacts this arena will bring. Anyone who has read any of the impact reports knows that this project is fraught with serious issues that only have imaginary solutions. Mayor Parker entered her administration with this project already started and had a full year to make real negotiations with the developers, but instead has promoted this ridiculous compressed timeline to railroad our city council into approving it because they lack the time and the answers to thoughtfully consider how bad this is for us as a city. I want to say to City Council today, the inertia you may be feeling is an illusion. It's an illusion that benefits the wealthy, but the reality is you serve America's poorest big city. You do not have to support this project because the mayor does, or because your campaign donors do, or because Mark Squilla and Kenyatta Johnson do. The entire purpose of your governing body is that you are elected to decide what you think is right for your constituents. That is, in fact, your real prerogative. When you think only in dollar signs, you may imagine that money is the answer to everything. And of course, that also means more money for yourself when you think that way. There is a much greater cost to Philadelphia than just what it has to lose financially. The true cost and the true burden are laid upon all of Philadelphia. Your constituents want money for repairs for public housing, for food, for harm reduction, for gun regulation, for real efforts to combat opioid addiction, for a respectable minimum wage. None of these efforts can be achieved by allowing an arena that goes unused for 200 or more days a year to sit at 10th and Market Streets. Any serious person knows that independent studies have provided mountains of evidence to discourage municipalities from supporting these projects under the pretense of economic stimulus. And you know this because your constituents have been telling you, along with scores of RCOs, CDCs, residential and business associations. Any amount less than the requested $300 million is just a sign that City Council will be rubber stamping this proposal. That was the written part, but I also want to go off a little bit. I've been displaced for giant city-backed projects before. I was on Jewelers Row. I spent 3 years fighting to keep our historic buildings up. Those buildings were demolished and have been a pit in the ground for 5 full years almost. At the end of this month, it'll be 5 years. This was a project that Mayor Kinney made go through despite its how unpopular it was. And what has it done for any of us? It hasn't done anything. I also want to say that You know, when city council talks about speaking, you know, or the mayor's team comes out and they're like, we talked to Washington Square West, that, you know, or they lump Washington Square West in with everybody else. That's not really how it is. There has been extremely limited engagement with the mayor's team. No one approached anybody in Washington Square West about getting involved in the CBA. And the idea that we didn't want to be involved was not true at all. It was held back. If you want to talk more about that, hit me up. Thank you.
Also with us today are Winfield Thomas and David Evans. They're representing Brewery Town Sharswood Neighbors Coalition, and Winfield is going to speak on their behalf.
Hello, I am Winfield Thomas from Brewery Town Sharswood Neighborhood Coalition, a volunteer group building community together in our neighborhood of North Philly. I am the team lead of Sunshine Unlimited. This arena proposed is not just about the immediate area, like Chinatown. It affects us all. Rushing this process without important questions answered and communicated to all residents of this city doesn't help create trust in our local government. SEPTA, for instance, do we know right now exactly who is paying for the millions of dollars needed to accommodate this arena annually? This money from Death Spiral, temporary, but funding is still needed. For schools, when we are faced with upcoming school closings and renovations, can we actually afford to leave millions on the table from unpaid property tax for this property? Will this arena actually create the job market it promises? And will those jobs actually create livable wages? Are contracts signed, and will residents of Philadelphia who work in trades be prioritized? Will we all know these answers before you vote? Most concerning for us, through as residents of not just Philadelphia, but of a neighborhood that has been marginalized, is the Community Benefits Agreement, where community groups and immediate neighborhoods included in these agreements. Approving a CBA that includes people of the community sends a bad message to all of us. It means a bad deal for them and the city, because it's a terrible practice that corrupts the idea that city representatives, that city council represents the people. Let's be clear, that $50 million isn't a benefit, it's a robbery. Imagine this arena we're built in our neighborhood, or in your neighborhood, in any neighborhood in this city. We should never accept this deal. We want to be clear that we know residents of Chinatown know what is best for their own homes. We stand in solidarity with them, and we do not support this arena in the middle of our city. No amount of money will offset the destruction of neighborhoods and local businesses, ruining a historic corridor with construction. Yes, we need jobs for union trades, but not at the expense of a historic neighborhood and not at the expense of the people needing immediate medical care at the city level 1 trauma center in Center City. Can we trust the city to find a better solution? We need council to stand up and fight for the people of Philadelphia, negotiate a real investment, Do not settle. Our city needs so much more. Thank you.
Now we're going to hear from David Brownlee with the Design Advocacy Group.
Hello, I'm David Brownlee. I'm one of the vice chairs of the Design Advocacy Group. We're a 23-year-old nonprofit organization that advocates for excellence and equity in architecture and city planning. When we first saw this project last summer, we came out against it. We continue to stand against it in its totality. We don't believe that Market East is the right place for an arena, and we don't believe that an arena serves the purposes of Market East. It's a mutual defeat. It's a defeat for both sides. We continue to advocate against the construction of the arena, no matter how many dollars are spent to compensate those who will be harmed by it. The design does not solve the problems of Market East. It does not create a vibrant 24/7 mixed-use community. It does not seize the opportunities of Market East, the adjacency of a vibrant Chinatown, a location on one of the great streets of America, sitting on top of an enormously important multimodal transport hub. It doesn't make use of those things. It destroys what is there instead. There is no way that a community benefits agreement negotiated under these terms can be considered an equitable arrangement. CBAs have a long history of not being successful, and this one seems to have been designed from the start to fail. It's inadequate. And to put it plainly, you can't pay us enough to allow this kind of mistake to be foisted on us. The Design Advocacy Group calls for a halt to this race to injustice. Thank you.
Now we have Lua, who is representing Make the Road PA.
Hello, good evening or afternoon. My name is Lua. I'm the youth organizer at Make the Road PA. I'm here representing our 13,000 members. As an organization dedicated to justice for working class and immigrant communities, Make the Road PA is compelled to speak out against the billionaire-backed proposal for a new 76ers arena. While we face many urgent priorities in this uncertain time, the dangerously rushed process in City Council leaves no room for silence on this critical issue. Our 13,000 members oppose this arena for multiple reasons. First, the proposal's community benefits agreement is glaringly inadequate. At only $50 million, it sends a dangerous message that an entire neighborhood can be sold for pennies on the dollar. The CBA lacks substantive commitments to address increased traffic congestion, the burden on already struggling public transportation systems like SEPTA, or any measures to safeguard the affordability and accessibility of Center City for residents who rely on critical services. Let us be clear, no amount of money can undo the harm of uprooting communities. But the pitiful low figure in the CBA makes it crystal clear that City Hall is willing to be bullied and bought. We need council members to stand up and fight for real investment in all of Philadelphia, not just scraps. $300 million is the minimum. $300 million is the bare minimum. Second, the public engagement process has been a farce. Communities have been given little time or opportunity to provide meaningful input. The Spanish-speaking community of Philadelphia, an integral part of the city, has been completely excluded from any outreach. Such negligence underscores the lack of accountability to the very people this proposal claims to benefit. Third, this arena threatens the very existence of Chinatown, a historic and culturally rich neighborhood that would face devastating displacement and gentrification. Approving this project would set a dangerous precedent. If one neighborhood can be steamrolled by billionaires and developers, whose community will be next? We oppose this arena because it prioritizes the developers' profits over people, money over people, money over lives. Overwhelmingly public testimony has made it clear that Philadelphians are tired of politicians rubber stamping projects that sacrifice our neighborhoods for the interests of the ultra-rich. We urge Mayor Parker and City Council to listen to their constituents, stand for working families, and reject this disastrous proposal.
I want to thank the members of the media who came out today. Thank you so much for being here and listening to this community concern about the arena on Market East. I want to say very clearly that we've been referencing a community benefits agreement when in all reality that is a misnomer. It's a corporate benefits agreement. It benefits the 76ers Development Corporation, not the people of Philadelphia. And so I hope you heard our message loud and clear. We are asking City Council to stop this ill-conceived project, which is based on a limited imagination of a few wealthy individuals. We call upon City Council to use their own imaginations, those who we elected, to envision how development projects in Center City and in fact in every neighborhood as a whole can thrive. Anything less means that City Hall has chosen to prioritize corporations and wealthy developers, billionaires if you will, over the people who live, work, learn, and let me underscore, vote here. This arena isn't just a threat to Chinatown, it's a wake-up call for every neighborhood in Philadelphia. Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, you know what? Oh, maybe that's like not a real number. Yeah, you call it and you're like a weird like.